but you can also enjoy a bath tour from the top of a topless bus.
Welcome to the bath tour, everybody. Good afternoon. We go around the city first and then we go around the country loop. We come back to the centre both times. We take half an hour on each loop. Come back to Terrace Walk, which is the centre. And we talk about the 18th century because in the 18th century we started the big expansion. It actually started from 1720 to 1820. We started to build houses, and these houses that you've just seen on your right hand side are typical Palladian style that you'll see all over the city. And as we go into the centre, you'll see the Abbey on your left, just over the top there. Now beyond the Abbey you'll find the Roman baths and the pump room, and the whole of it is on top of the Roman remains, because the Roman remains stretched very far in the whole of the city. It stretched right down as far as the bus station almost, and we keep finding little bits of it. But we've just got the baths to show you today, if you go in there, because the baths were built originally and then we found a little spring coming up. We've recovered what baths we found and built our baths on top of those. So they're set on the same area as the Roman one. Now these on the right are the Parade Gardens, and you can see that they're 18 feet below this level. That's because that's the original level of the ground. The river of the Avon always flowed over, flooding this area, bringing silt and mud across, and gradually, when we built on top of the old buildings, mashed them down and built on top, so we've got this area 18 feet above the original level. And we've got like a layered cake of history underneath us, because we had the Romans first, and then we had the Normans, Saxons, Normans, and then the Georgians up to this present time. Victorians as well, we had those here. So the layer of cake of history beneath us. 18 feet beneath this bus, we're just going over the old medieval wall and the ditch. But at the beginning of the time, the Romans came here was 43 AD. They stayed here till 410 AD. And during that time, it was usually quite peaceful. Because they came here, they allowed the Britons to rule over their own little settlements, and they came here for religious purposes. They worshipped the sun god, Sul, and so they didn't actually bathe in the waters, but they worshipped their god there. And if you go into the baths, you'll see Sul Minerva's head there. We unearthed it just about 50 years ago. But when they came here, this was mainly a trading area, this whole area here. They worshipped the sun god. They took lead from these hills about 13 miles away and took it back to their country in gold, like we have gold bullion today in square blocks. And they took corn from us as well. We were known as the Granary of the North at one time. And they took tin and copper from Cornwall. They built roads, fortresses and spas. And the reason why Bath is so special is it's the only hot water spa. All the other spas are cold water. So here you'll see the hot water coming out of the baths there. Comes out 1 million litres every 24 hours, and you can feel the water. It's 117 degrees Fahrenheit, or 46.5 degrees centigrade if you're working that way. And it gushes out of the wall there in a little alcove that we've made. Well, after they left in 410, these baths sank into the earth because they weren't used, and bushes and trees grew on top of them, and they kind of went out of existence. Well, we started to use them again in the 18th century. We found a spring. Springs were always used anyway, but we found a spring, and when we dug down, we found these Roman pools there. So we excavated them and renovated them, and we used all the stones that they cut out because they were still there. They had been preserved in all this mud, this old wet mud. And we were able to use the stones that the Romans cut out. So we've put the pools there, and you can go and see them. And if you want to see the pump room on the top, and you have a glass of the spa water, it's only 30p for a glass of it. Gives you everlasting youth if you believe in it as well. So that's quite a good thing to do, isn't it? Now, after they were excavated in the 18th century, a lot of people started coming to Bath, and we had to expand. This was just a small area, a walled city of 23 acres, and with a wall all the way around the whole lot of it, with 4 gates, north, south, east and west. And then people started to come here after Queen Anne came, and she came too because she suffered from gout and dropsy. And after she was here, other people started to follow because they like to be following the royalty. And it was mainly rich people that came here. And all around Bath you'll see very great pavings, wide areas where they did this. And in fact they probably went down to the pump room for their coffee. And if you go to the pump room today, it's like going back into the 18th century. It's a very elegant room. And in there you can see, you can have a coffee and tea and a Bath bun and get sent right back into the 18th century. That's in the pump room. It's different to the Roman baths, that's the museum. But in this area also we've got the Abbey. Now the Abbey was the third church on this side. The first one was a Saxon one. It was a very small stone church, and it's very important to us because it's where the first king of all England was crowned. King Edgar was crowned here. He reigned for 18 years altogether. So after that, many centuries went by, and we had another abbey put there, and this abbey of today. Now this was built in 1499 in the 15th century, and it was built by Bishop Oliver King. He had a dream. He dreamt he saw the ladder with the angels going up and down it, and he also heard a voice saying that an olive restore a crown and a king restore a church, and he thought it meant him. So he got going and restored the church as we see it today. But also Queen Elizabeth, she was touring England. She came to this part, went into the abbey and got rained upon. There was no roof on it because prior to that, with the dissolution of the monasteries with King Henry VIII, he got rid of all the churches. And this one actually was tried to be sold to the Bath Council, but they didn't want it. So all the roof was taken off and sold. The lead was sold for about £4,000, and all the windows were taken out, and everything was taken out from inside it. So when she came along, his daughter, Queen Elizabeth I, she started to restore the abbey by getting everybody in England to put some money towards it and got the church roof put on. So the one you see today, the abbey, is the one from that time. And we're having the 500th centenary of that soon. We're going to clean up the whole of the abbey because at the moment only the west front is cleaned up. If you do go to the west front, the way in, you can see the ladder, Jacob's ladder, the story of the Bible, and you can also go inside and see the fine fan vaulted ceiling that's in there. It's supposed to be the finest in England. We call this abbey the Lantern of the West because 60% of it is glass. It's Gothic, perpendicular in style, your eye runs up towards heaven. The buttresses on either side were put there in Victorian times. They were added later just to strengthen the roof. And do go into the abbey because in there we've just recently discovered parts of the Norman and the Saxon church, in fact, in the abbey, and it's a very exciting find. Now we're in the High Street now, and this was where all the hustle and bustle of town went on. All the coaches came through here, all the wares were sold, all the food was sold here, and there were also some stocks here. But here you can see the Guildhall. We've always had a Guildhall in Bath, this big building on the right-hand side. The centre of it was built in 1776 with the columns rising up, Corinthian columns, and the triangular pediment in the top. And you can see the scales of justice on the top of that. That's because it was a magistrate's courts. And if you go inside, you can see the finest room in Bath, the banqueting room. In there you'll see chandeliers that are insured for £1 million each, and there are 3 of them just inside the banqueting room. Just ask the receptionist, the reception door there, and they'll let you in. You can see some very fine paintings in there as well. And we're going to see in front of us the church of St Michael Without. That's got it looks like Salisbury Cathedral because it's a very high steeple on it. And it's the 3rd church on this site. The first one was put there in the 11th century. Alongside the church, on the right-hand side, you see the oldest pub in Bath. It's called the Saracen's Head. And the Saracen's Head is just here. This is where Charles Dickens just sat and watched for his characters in his book, The Pickwick Papers. He was a reporter at the time. You can see how we've opened up. This is the new town of 18th century Bath. And you see the houses are 5 stories high. But we go round the Royal Crescent and you see you had 30 houses. It was the first crescent ever built in Britain. They've got 114 Ionic columns, and the middle one is a Crescent Hotel. The servants used to live in the top. Kitchens were in the basement. First room was the reception room, second room was the withdrawing room, then the bedrooms. And the servants had to come out at 6 o'clock in the morning to get the water from the centre of the crescent.
These tours are quite informative and very convenient because you can hop off, go into an attraction, and then hop on the next tour bus that comes by. Well, after you've walked around for a bit, you can get back on your tour bus, so let's continue where we left off.
So welcome to those that have just joined the tour. As you can see, the little park known as Parade Gardens, always a popular location. The school children to have their picnic lunch, and the ladies recovering from their shopping expeditions. Present-day population of Bath is 84,000 people. Main sources of city income, obviously the tourist industry, that accounts for about a third. But we also have high-tech light engineering companies here. One of the largest publishers of educational books in Europe are based here. And we also have the naval ship design capability of the Ministry of Defence. Well, there before you lies the city of Bath. Right in the middle, you can pick out the great mass of the Abbey. Now, in 1700, the population was 3,000 people. Everybody lived very close around the Abbey. Now, being a little market town, acute shortage of accommodation. So this drew in architects, developers, to build all the elegant homes we see today. For the next 100 years, it was a boom town, expanding across the valley floor, up the hills around. Population multiplied 10 times. But Bath remained popular. Cost of living here was very cheap. Surrounded by farmland, foodstuff was cheap. So Bath continued to grow into the 1800s, when the population multiplied 3 times again. Planning regulations for development very strict in Bath. You can't pull a building down without permission, and you can't build one without permission. And what you build must be in Bath stone. Just on our left here, Bath Spa Hotel. It was developed by linking 2 mansions on that site. And last year, it won the award of the Hotel of the Year, the best hotel in Great Britain. You can go in there just for a pot of tea or a pot of coffee, enjoy and sample the refined hospitality. Now, I've given us a grand return to the centre of Bath down Great Pulteney Street. One of the longest, widest, straightest streets in England. Laid out in the 1780s, again, this was the work of Baldwin. Architectural style, what is known as the Regency style, a little bit different to the Palladium style, but nevertheless classical lines. Now, the street got its name from the developer, a Mr. Pulteney, and I think he was quite a bright chap. He married a girl that was incredibly wealthy, and when they married, he changed his name to hers, so he knew his place. So progressing down Great Pulteney Street, again, all built as family homes, very much on the upstairs, downstairs style, servants below stairs. Now here we approach Pulteney Bridge. The design of this bridge was based on the Ponte Vecchio in Florence. Little shops either side of the roadway. Now our next stop is in the centre of Bath. So if you want the pub rooms, the Abbey, Roman Baths Museum, then this is the best stop for you. The tours run every 12 minutes. Every day? Yeah, every day, right through to the end of September. My pleasure.